Hello and welcome to Flood Facts, Myths, and Monsters. And I want to introduce you to the host, Denise Boning.
We are still at the Florida Floodplain Managers Conference in the beautiful city of Cape Coral. And today, or right now, this morning, it's still morning, it's before noon, people. So I get the pleasure of talking to Chris Zambido. So tell me, Chris, who do you work for? What do you do?
So I'm with a consulting firm called Atkins Realis. It's an international engineering design firm, and I focus out of our Tampa office on pretty much anything related to floodplains, maps, insurance, resilience, whether it's mapping things, whether it's public outreach, whether it's looking at water reclamation facilities, vulnerability assessments, any of those kind of activities.
Oh, so you're pretty busy.
Pretty busy right now.
Yes. Yeah, I can imagine. So I know you were in my class this morning with the CAS credit. So I was glad you were there, by the way, because there's coastal engineering aspects, and I'm not an engineer. I know nothing about engineering, or maybe a little bit. But anyway, so I was glad that I was able to tag you for some questions.
And we do have clients that are asking us, like, how do we make sure we get CAS credit? And we've got some credit. Can we get more? So it's good to hear from you and understand some of that.
Oh, good. I'm glad. So how did you get into the CFM and that side of the business and involved with the floodplain managers?
So probably like a lot of people stumbled backwards into this career. I was like kind of the true Gen Xer. I came out of college with some digital background. I was an MIS student, so kind of understood data at a time when communities were still doing paper everything. We're starting to convert to data in digital world. And so learned GIS at a county. I worked for Hillsborough County for 10 years. Hillsborough County was trying to adhere to what were called GASB 44 requirements, I think, at the time, which basically said, if you were going to be a community, you had to do all this asset management type stuff. So I was an intern. I went out in the field with a GPS unit, stood at schools, scared a lot of people that I had like this missile compact looking huge box standing outside of a bus area or something. So, but I did that for a while, and that's when mitigation strategies were first required in Florida. So that was 1998. So they didn't have people to do that. I worked for Gene Henry, who you guys know well.
Yep.
So Gene was a very proactive person. He was very much of an enabler, and so was always pushing me, do whatever. Learn,
great.
go, be at conferences, help us do things. So it was kind of like the person who did all the GIS work in the beginning. Once I learned how to do it, did our first evaluation of flood maps, did our first, we would do a lot of HAZIS, which was a federal disaster model for damage assessment and predicting hurricanes and all those kind of things. So did all that kind of world for 10 years. And then the economy tanked and we had our second kid on the way.
Oh boy.
And they had already cut like 75% of staff because we were paying out of permit fees at that time.
Oh my gosh.
And so I had an opportunity to work with another company that I'd worked with at the county. They were a consulting firm. And so I went there for 10 years and I did a lot of similar stuff, but then got into more of a national level type work, which was good because that was another reason I kind of left the county. Was there's only so many times you can talk to retired senior citizens that, want to call you all day long and talk about flood maps or complain about them. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting to get a different view of the world and see what other communities do. And so we did a lot of like hurricane evacuation studies. We'd go to Puerto Rico and USVI, and New Orleans and North Carolina. So, did a lot of that and kind of got some of that perspective. And, the nice thing was Florida's always been fairly cutting edge with this stuff. And so I could transfer a lot of those skill sets to people that weren't used to doing it.
Hi, my name is Steve Boning, president of Coastal Waterways. For over 15 years, our firm has provided engineering, floodplain management, and resiliency services within a coastal and marine environment. Our services include natural and hardened shoreline stabilization and restoration, dredging and marine structure engineering and permitting, community vulnerability assessments, and GIS analysis and numerical modeling. we are proud to sponsor Flood, Facts, Myths, and Monsters. Now let's get back to the show.
Oh, that's interesting. That's really cool. Wow, that's a great career path you've had.
I learned enough skills to be employable through all the different changes,
Yeah.
which I think, I always kind of tell my kids too, is like, if nothing else, just acquire skills, because then you can apply them to whatever.
That's true. Yeah. No, that's very true. So you've been coming to conferences for a long time then. Do you remember your first one?
So my first ASFPM conference, I think, was like 2004 when I went out to Arizona and got my CFM at that class, did the week long like you used to do it with the conference. And at the end of the week, took the test and passed, became a CFM. And this group, when we started like FFMA, we didn't really have conferences. We had like a 1 day kind of 2-hour get together and like a tag along to another conference. I think it was FSA. And we would do that at the end at some hotel that was just convenient to somebody. It wasn't for this group. So yeah, that was kind of the first, and that was back early mid 2000s.
Oh my gosh. So have you been coming pretty much every year then?
Pretty much every year.
Yeah. Do you remember like either your most memorable one or something that really sticks out to you that was the most fun, or that something that happened that you'll never forget?
I became a regional director, and then people had retired or something, kind of nominated me for that spot. And then, so I was quickly like on the board. So I was on the board when we were kind of in the transition. I call it kind of FFMA 2.0. All the original founders, like in the beginning, we would meet like at a restaurant and try to figure out like what FFMA is. Like it didn't have a name. We were just trying to say like, people need to learn stuff. They don't have a resource. They don't have a way to understand what 44 CFR is. And so, there were consultants and other people that just thought it was a good idea to do something.
Yeah.
And then, as that kind of blossomed a little bit, we decided, okay, well, now we got enough people to get this group going. We had an executive director. And that kind of went fairly strong for like 5 to 8 years. And then it started dying off, and people weren't really paying attention to finances. We weren't really understanding like what the organization was doing, where it was going. And so that's kind of when we transitioned to CC. So like I came on the board like right when we were trying to decide what how to select a new executive director and what are we going to do with a strategic plan and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of in my mind like 2.0 of FFMA. So she's going to hate me for it, but the first conference that, really rings a bell is St. Augustine, because it was CC's first conference, and it was one of the ones that Chrissy, it was like her first kind of thing. And, she ordered the 2,000 s'mores or whatever, thinking we were going to have everybody out there on the group together, and like 10 people ate the s'mores. And
Oh, no.
she never lives it down that she took like half of the food budget, not really understanding like how we were planning food. And, we were all kind of figuring this thing out as we went. And
Right. I love it.
So it was, that was a very memorable one.
Oh, I could imagine. Yeah.
Some of that kind of stuff. And then, to me, the things that are always surprising are just the conversations that happen between like 10 at night and 2 in the morning.
Oh,
when you just start getting into it, and you have some people that are very passionate about the work, and they're very driven. And so you start talking about a couple tangents, and then you go back to talking about your kids or your wife or your family and fun things. And then you go back to, trying to figure out how to do things in the V zone. And you're like, are we really sitting around the pool drinking out of a cooler and beer, 1 in the morning about a V zone? Like,
oh, that's
what
hilarious.
am I doing my life? Like, so, I mean, those are always, fun memories.
Total flood nerds, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's great. So, once we make a movie out of the Florida Floodplain Managers Association, because we have so much material, I mean, we've got to make a movie out of this.
Okay.
So, what actor should we hire?
To do what?
To play you.
To play. I don't know. I've been told, and I don't agree with these, that back in the day, Jean-Claude Van Damme kind of looks like me.
There you go.
I've heard Dennis Quaid. I've heard people that I'm like, are you closing one eye? Like, why do you think I look like these people?
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, Jean-Claude Van Damme maybe 20 years ago would have been absolutely, Now I think he's got some trouble, so we'll just scratch him off. But maybe we'll take Dennis Quaid because nobody's taken him yet.
Okay,
So
okay.
we got The Rock, we got Tom Cruise, we got Chris Pratt. So we got a number of them already. So all right, that
I'm a
sounds
kind
good.
of under the radar guy, and I think
Okay.
Dennis Quaid, he's kind of under the radar.
Yeah, he's under the radar, so that works. That's cool. All right, good, excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and then enjoy the rest of your conference, and we'll, hang out later.